And that's it. We are live on the internet.
All right. Good.
Finally. How's it going?
Good. How are you, Eric?
I am awesome. Sorry that took so long. It's my fault somehow, I'm sure.
That's okay. Yeah. I'm sure it was me. I'm sure.
I take the blame either way, you know.
Right.
I just realized you have a bunch of butterfly stuff behind you.
I do.
Yeah. You remember what room you were in?
Right on my way. Which one? Yes, I do. I've always loved butterflies. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, butterflies are cool. You know, I have a bunch of random stuff behind me too. So butterflies are probably cooler than the, you know, superhero thing I probably have behind me. So.
Oh no, it's cool.
Awesome. So it's nice to meet you finally. I don't think we've ever actually. I've never met you in person, right?
No, we haven't met in person. No.
Gotcha. Thank God. I thought you were gonna say we have. But I'm like, oh, for nice to meet you. Like we've met 7 times. Like,
yeah, that happens to me all the time. But you know, I'm just as bad, so I don't judge anybody that forgets.
In my defense, the guy in the wheelchair is easy to remember, and all you walking people look the same. So you know, it's hard to keep track of y'all. Yeah. all you folks just walking around all look alike. So
right,
it's hard to keep track of y'all.
I hear you.
Yeah. So you guys are doing awesome work, and I like how specific you are in your niche, which I think is really important. You know, a lot of folks start a nonprofit and they want to kind of do everything and or do what a lot of other people are doing. And you're doing something super specific and no one else is doing it. And I think that's really cool.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It took a little bit to get there. We did start very general about the firefighters and stuff like that, and then branched out after going to the National Drowning Prevention Convention is kind of where we had our aha moment of what we need to do. So, yeah, I was pretty glad we went for that.
What year did you go?
This year. Yeah, we just went for the first time. Yeah, this is the first time we went, and I wasn't supposed to go. It was going to just be my husband, and we happened to be able to pick up a load in Miami, and then I tagged along. So yeah.
That's awesome. So he's a trucker?
He used to be.
Okay.
We used to have that as a company, but one of our customers for our new business, which is construction, is one of our old customers for transportation, and he had a boat that we had to pick up. So
gotcha.
We did that. Awesome. In a non-commercial way.
I hear you.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So you got the hero bag idea literally just in April?
Yeah, it kind of started in April. I went to the convention with the idea in mind that there had to be something out there for EMS or firefighters that could help drowning victims, you know, something. And I literally went to the convention going, I don't know what it is. I have no idea. And so I went there, and then they started I kept hearing lack of oxygen, and that's what, you know, causes the traumatic brain injury, which is what the problem is with drowning victims, right? And
that's
the heart. It's not, a lot of times it's not kidneys or anything like that. It's the lack of oxygen to the brain and the brain swelling. So
that's actually why I am in a wheelchair. I had lack of oxygen when I was being born, and it caused a brain aneurysm. So the symptoms are really similar to a drowning victim, which is why I think I relate a little bit. But yeah.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And then I also, by following a lot of non-fatal drowning families and noticing they're going to get oxygen treatment at the HBOT and Dr. Hart and doing all that, it just clicked. Like something just said, you know what, you know, we need to get oxygen to them as soon as they can. And why aren't we doing this? You know, and that's kind of where it went from there. And once I realized that the FDA did approve oxygen for emergency situations, it seemed like a no-brainer.
So has this treatment, we'll call it, been done before to drowning victims, and has it been successful?
Well, I mean, they do it as soon as the ambulance comes, right? I mean, once the ambulance gets there, they give you oxygen.
Right.
The problem is, you know, the best ambulance in town doesn't get to you until, 6 minutes. If you're in, for Rory, it was 25 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. So all that time, the brain starts kind of dying off at 6 minutes, and we need every second. So why can't these police officers and their patrol cars, a lot of times, are the ones that show up first, or volunteer firemen in their own vehicles? Obviously, once EMTs get there, they have oxygen, but we need it sooner, right? I mean, the kids are dying at an alarming rate. I mean, it's very rare that they survive, and when they do, their issues are the brain injury. So
the idea is the first responder who gets there before the paramedic. Correct. Is it possible that people like I could have one in my house just on standby? I mean,
yes. Yeah. That's kind of what we're going for, is marketing to pool owners. We do want them. I'm trying to integrate. Okay, we'll sell you this, and give you a credit for like CPR and oxygen training. Which oxygen training. When I would ask different EMT, the chiefs of EMS and different things, they're like, well, training. That's the issue. You need training on oxygen. You need to. And I'm like, okay, well, what is it? I mean, grandma carries around oxygen, right?
Yeah, so, my mom used to. Yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, how hard could this be?
Yeah.
And when I talked to the gentleman that does our CPR training, he said it's 5 minutes, and he did it at the end of one of our CPR things. And it's 5 minutes.
Right.
So we are marketing that on our website to pool owners, or if you live on a water, or anything like that. Definitely. I mean, they're $300, but they're not real big. They're 15 inches tall. The whole thing's 15 inches tall. So it hangs on your wall next to your pool or whatever. And to me, I just think if you own a pool, you should have this,
Yeah, absolutely. And I've never heard, as deep as I am into pool safety, which is about as far as it gets.
Right.
I've never heard anyone recommend that before, ever.
Right. Yeah. Well, and because if you talk to medical people, whether they're paramedics or they're doctors, they're like, well, it's the training issue. And so that's when I started asking different medical professionals, like, what's the downside of this? Tell me I'm going to blow up someone's lungs. Tell me, like something. And they're like,
someone's eyes are going to pop out,
Right? Like something horrible is going to happen, other than they're already, not, breathing or heartbeat. I mean, you can't get much worse than that, right? Right. So, and literally their issue was, well, if you don't put it on the face properly, they don't get the right amount.
Okay.
Like if you don't do mouth to mouth properly, they don't get it right.
Right. And we all know you should do some kind of CPR instead of no CPR, right? I mean, that's kind of the, so we've got that down. Like even crappy CPR is better than no CPR.
Exactly.
So I'd rather get wrong air than than no air.
Right. Exactly. Well, and then when I started asking about, CPR, because I didn't take CPR, I redid it in April, and come to find out, you do CPR classes now, it's all about the chest compressions, and that's great for every cardiac situation, right? And they say, oh, well, mouth to mouth is optional, and they don't address drowning,
right?
Because when in a drowning situation, it's not really optional. I mean, you might as well not do CPR if you're not doing mouth to mouth, because they're not getting any oxygen. With every other cardiac situation, once you get the heart going and you get all that, everything else starts to work, except in a drowning situation where the lungs aren't they're not switching out those gases.
Right.
So you actually need to push that oxygen in there. And for them to say, oh, well, mouth to mouth is optional and not address drowning was shocking to me, because this isn't some rare occurrence that children drown. I mean, it happens all the time, obviously. And
every day.
Yeah. And they don't address it. So,
and my good friend, Bob Pratt, I don't know if you know him, he's on the board of the NDPA.
Yes.
And he was an EMS and a paramedic for a long time.
Yeah, he was one I talk to. Yeah.
Yeah. He gets really upset about people not doing the breaths.
Right.
Because you're missing out on everything. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, with mouth to mouth, and I learned this since talking to different people about it. Mouth to mouth, you get 14 to 16% oxygen when they do that, because obviously you breathe in oxygen and you expel carbon dioxide. Right. So you're not giving them 100% oxygen, but it's better than nothing.
Sure.
And then we looked in just doing the bag valve masks, the BVM. Yeah. And that's better. You get 21% oxygen. But if you have something in your bag that can give you 100% and push it in, why not? You know, absolutely. The only issue with oxygen is they're worried about over oxygenation, right? But you have to do that for like days and days and days of oxygen. And that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the tanks we put in there is 25 minutes.
Right.
That's it. So.
And isn't the hyperbaric over oxygen? I mean, isn't that exactly what that is?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And people just haven't come around to that way of thinking, right. And when I do talk to, whether it's firefighters that have EMT training or paramedics or doctors, the big thing is their training says, okay, well, I'm not supposed to do that. I'm not a medical, I'm not a doctor. I can't prescribe it. That's what their training says. But for the last 40 years, the FDA says it's allowed. It's not a prescription drug in an emergency situation when they need to be resuscitated. So when I tell them about this, and you do CPR and that gets everything going. And then when I mention except in drowning, it's like it switches over to, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. I'm like, I'm not a doctor. I'm not an EMT. I was a lifeguard years ago. Like that's about it. And how this is not like a normal thing. It just blows my mind, to be honest.
Yeah. So, and like I said, I've never heard anybody champion it before you. And I think you're really on the cutting edge of something legitimately groundbreaking. I think, hopefully, you'll be the beginning of everybody having these things. I really think that. And
I hope so. Yeah. Because, obviously we promote water safety and prevention, that's what we want.
Right.
But we're not to the point yet that's actually changing. I mean, it's changing things, but it's an uphill battle, right? I mean, we're constantly telling about, fences and door and window alarms and why you shouldn't do this. And so, when the worst happens and either the child gets through all your barriers or you aren't aware of the issues, the least we could have is this oxygen to give them a fighting chance. So. Yeah,
absolutely. So I'm impressed with how quickly you got it up on your website, and it looks like you've been doing this forever.
No. No, yeah, and I can't even take full credit. It was almost like that thought was planted in me because I didn't come up with that all on my own. It just kind of happened, So, and I did run my marketing marketing design team, my website people, pretty hard to get it going for our big event. We have a ride in July. And so I'm like, I just had this urgency. Like, we have to get this out here. We have to let people know what we're doing, because from the time I told her that I need to get this website and what I needed on, we lost 15 children in Texas, in that time. And I don't know. It's an urgency now. Like, we've got to do this. We've got to get it out there and at least make people aware of what they need to do. The only pushback I have about marketing to pool owners is like, oh, well, it's $300. Well, okay.
Yeah.
You have a pool. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. If you have a house and a pool, I'm going to go on a limb and say there's a pretty good chance you can swing the $300.
Exactly. And, you know, we're not charging any more than if you were to go to someone else. But everything that above what it costs us goes into these hero bags that we can give to first responders. So I'm hoping that we push that message, you know. Yeah, sure. If you want to go buy it from someone else or somewhere else, you can find it and you could do it, and that's great. But if you buy from us, then it goes back into the community and it goes back into first responders and things like that for those bags.
So whatever profit you make goes towards buying more of these, essentially.
Yes.
That goes, okay.
Yes.
So is there a difference between the hero bag and what people can get?
Not necessarily. Well, the hero bag is a complete first aid basic kit. Okay. Not basic. It's pretty extensive, but basic EMT kit, I guess you would say.
Right.
And then it has the oxygen tank, the same oxygen tank that we would market to pool owners.
As part of it.
As a part of it. Right. And it's put in the back. If you were to purchase the hero bag, which is the first aid kit with the oxygen, retails about $1,200.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And so these guys can't afford this. I mean, if you're a police officer, you might be able to, but you know, they don't make a whole lot, honestly. Volunteer firemen, obviously you're a volunteer. The department is small, right. And they can't afford that. So, you know,
and currently they're not being paid for by their departments or anything. You know?
No. In fact, I have departments that have contacted me wanting them for their trucks. So they don't even have it for their trucks. I assumed it was on the trucks. Like that was my bad, you know. I assumed that. But these smaller ones, we have some here in Brazoria County that I think there's 8 members, and they don't have anything. They have a truck, and they service these rural, remote areas, and that's when we really need it, you know. Right. So, yeah, their departments. Since it is a new concept, which again that just throws me that this is a new concept. They're coming around and they're very receptive. I have more requests than I can probably send out right now, but they're very receptive to it. And their departments, they can't afford to purchase this a lot of times. They have a hard enough time getting their gear, just their basic bunker gear and things like that. So a bag like this that's kind of like, well, you know, we have an ambulance,
right?
You know, so that's why we're trying to push it out there. I've had some people ask, well, you know, like you said, can't the departments buy these things? Like police departments for the squad cars or the fire departments. And honestly, maybe eventually they'll see the light and do it automatically. But until then, we can't afford not to give it to them and just be like, here,
right.
You know, and we give them training. Like if they're a police officer and they don't have the oxygen training, that normally they have the first aid and they have the CPR. They have to, but we'll do the oxygen training and then have them sign a waiver just saying that this is only for resuscitation. And really that's to protect them. It's not even for us. It's just so that the state knows, or the government knows, that we know that they know that they can't give it to somebody who's, you know, lightheaded or something like that. So
perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's really cool. I really do, you know, and you know, it's so rare to see someone doing something so specific and so unique that hasn't been done yet. And you know, I think I really do think you're onto something massive, and it's exciting, you know.
Yes, you know, when I didn't talk to Dr. Hartz directly, but I had contact with people who did, and apparently he was like, well, you know, he wants a HBOT ambulance, and I'm like, well, I can't do that. Yeah. But he, you know, that's kind of where I ran with it when he said this was a good idea, and I'm like, all right, let's do this, you know, I'm going to do it until someone says I can't. And then when they say I can't, well, then we'll sit down and discuss why I can't.
Right. That makes sense to me. You know,
yeah.
I'd rather ask forgiveness than permission.
Right. Well, and you know, the EMS chiefs here in my town and a few towns over that I've spoke to, they're very receptive to it. They're very excited about it. Their only issue is, again, they're like, well, it's a prescription drug, and I have to remind them that not in this situation. And not only that, they're just worried about people's certification. And I don't see any reason why that would change anything if we're certifying them through the oxygen, their little 5-minute course or whatever you want to call it of how to put the mask on. And, things like that. And I think it's more of changing people's ideas or understanding about what drowning is and that kind of thing. So that's another thing where I really am excited about these bags, because not only are we giving the people that usually show up first the tools to help, but we're also making them advocates, because now
Right.
they know about drowning. Now they know about water safety. And if they follow us at all, then they understand what we're doing. And then they can take that with them, we at first I thought, well, I'll just give them the oxygen tank, which would have been easier and a lot cheaper. But sorry, I have a 8-month-old. Which would have been a lot cheaper and easier. But we want them to keep this bag. We want this to be their jump bag, like to be the bag that they grab for whatever reason, right? So it's got all sorts of other things, gauze and all. I don't even know what half the stuff is. I just know where to put it in the bag now. But, that way they keep it, I don't want them to be like, oh, well, I don't need this oxygen tank. I haven't used it in 3 years. And then toss it in their closet and it never be used. Right. So, and that's why I'm also excited about these guys wanting it in their squad cars, because that way they have it. Like right now, a lot of departments I talk to, all they have is a little small plastic first aid kit that has like Band-Aids or something. Like, I mean, they showed it to me and it's ridiculous. Like it's ridiculous,
That's crazy. That's wild.
Yeah. Cause even in town, a police officer is probably going to be the first one to show up. Right. I mean, there's usually more of them around, than ambulances. And not only that, my hope is, if they didn't run to the accident right away, which I don't think they would, but now I feel like it increases their self-efficacy about, I can do something.
Sure.
I will work harder because I know I can get there and I have something that can help. Right.
Right.
And so anything that could help them, I'm all about that.
Absolutely. I think it's great. I really do. I think it's phenomenal. So, first of all, what's the name of your baby we're listening to?
Oh, my little bear over there. Yeah. Anson. That's
Anson.
Anson. Yes. Yeah. Sorry. He's a growler.
No, it's all right. I like it. It sounds like he's he's looking for something. It's great.
Oh yeah, he's a happy little guy. He's just in his swing growling.
Growling. I growl sometimes too, so I understand. I get it, Anson. Yeah. And
it's usually in the morning. That's usually when I start growling.
Or if I haven't eaten, that's a big one. Yeah.
Yeah, he does more than growl when he's hungry.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. He's got to let you know.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You got to be on alert. So how long ago did you guys start Rory the Warrior?
We started in February of 2017. Okay. About 6 months after Rory passed. That's when I officially started. I knew I needed to do something within, a couple of months. I knew there was something I had to do. I had a good feeling it had to do with first responders, only because, Rory loved fire trucks. He was 3. He didn't have a huge vocabulary, but he could tell you every part of a fire truck. He watched YouTube videos on how to build fire trucks.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, and then he would watch videos as long as I would let him of fire trucks going on calls, just who knew they video that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then post it on YouTube, and who knew a 3-year-old would find that, and just, if I would let him, it would be hours. I would do it while we homeschool, so he would watch, and it's just, you'd hear it like just pulling out of the station and pulling out of the station and going by, and I'm like, I'm bored within 5 seconds, but
right.
he loved it. You know, so it kind of went from there. His love of fire trucks. When he drowned, we were on vacation in Concan, which is a small town in the hill country. I guess it's still hill country in Texas, but it was pretty remote, and I didn't realize that until we had the accident. It was a rental home. When we found him, of course, we did start CPR and called 911. Within 2 minutes, a volunteer fireman showed up. He happened to be right down the road, and helped us with CPR and things like that until the ambulance got there, which was about 25 minutes later. And then it was another 15 to 20 minutes to get to the hospital and things like that. So, you know, so he has a special place in our heart. We had firemen come show up for Rory in the hospital while we were waiting to see if we were going to have brain activity. And so that was good. That was nice. When our people back home found out, we were 4 hours away, and told our local fire departments. They showed up in force for his funeral. There was 13 trucks in Rory's procession.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, we have like little cards, honorary firefighter for him. The Brazoria County firefighters brought him a little funky gear set with his name on it. I mean, they just really showed a lot of support, and it kind of started out as my way to say thank you to them, like do something for them, because what they gave us, we can't measure, you know, making a horrible situation just a little bit sweeter by showing up, you know. So it started with that. We started with wanting to get their bunker gear, different things like that. But bunker gear is expensive, and we ran into an issue of like one department wants top of the line for $7,000, and another department, well, they just need this anything, and they'll take the $2,000 setup. You know, it's like,
Right.
how do we justify where we go? And so it kind of stalled out for a bit, until right before the convention. I just knew I had to do something. I didn't know what that was. I didn't know. I'm like, you know, is there a new invention out there that can, I don't know, pump water out of lungs? Like at that point, I didn't know the aspects
Right.
of drowning. You know, I didn't know that your lungs really aren't filled with water.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, that was kind of my idea. Like something's got to be out there to help someone survive this. So, and it moved from there. So we're coming up on 2 years for Roy's passing. And I'm just really excited about what we're doing, you know? Yeah, sorry. I rambled when it comes to it.
No, you're great. For anyone who hasn't read the story, do you mind talking about how you made it to the pool and kind of what that happened?
Well, no problem. Yeah, me and our family and 3 other families were good friends, and we rented a vacation home with a pool out in Concan. The big thing to do in that area is float the Frio.
Right. And Concan is not Cancun, which I read it a couple times. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's in Texas. Wah, wah, wah. It's still very nice, but that's a big thing to float the river.
Okay.
So we floated the river one day. It was on Thursday, and it took about 5 hours. The next day we decided we're just going to play at the river. So we took the kids out there, and we were playing out there. And after we decided it was time to come home or back to the house, which was a mile away, we my friend loaded up the children. She had all the kids, and we loaded up the tubes and the things, the ice chests, whatever. And we allowed Rory to go with her because he wanted to go with the kids. And it was a mile up the road. So she took off before we did. When we got to the house, I assumed that he was upstairs with the rest of the kids or the rest of the adults. I went and changed, and when I walked upstairs, and my first question was, "Where's Rory?" which was a very normal thing for me to say because he was a little firecracker. He was always on the go, and nobody knew. And I don't even think I stopped. I just went straight to the balcony where the pool was, and I found him. So, the issues. There was a gate. There was a fence around the pool. There was gates, but one of the gates, the lock wasn't working. And Rory knew how to open it. We don't know if someone left the gate open. We don't know if he opened it. We don't know any of that. When he got in the car with my friend, he had his little life jacket on because we were out at the river. And even though it was just, a couple of inches deep, it wasn't like maybe to his knees. It's a flowing river, so we decided he had to have his life jacket on.
Right.
Right. And we got back, and so the last time I saw him, he had his life jacket on. But unfortunately, my friend had taken the life jacket off to let it dry. I mean, we were going home to eat dinner. There was, would be anything any mom would do, Right. And she hung it up to dry, and I guess he decided he was going to go swimming after that. I mean, she thought he was with the other kids. I thought he was with her, and it was just one of those situations where, he just slipped off, and so that's how he got in the pool. I do realize some mistakes. Obviously, the fence. They weren't self-closing gates. They didn't have high locks. And I had been letting Rory swim in that pool with the big kids with his life jacket on. So I can only assume he didn't think anything of it, and he'd been jumping in that pool for the last 2 days, and he just jumped in, so yeah. So
are you still in touch with that mom?
Oh, definitely. She's my best friend. Yes. Yeah. No. I mean, I know we all carry guilt. Why didn't I ask where he was sooner? Why, all sorts of things. And she does too. And I find that unfortunate. Just because she didn't do anything that anybody else wouldn't have done, right. We're going upstairs to eat. You're taking off the wet life jacket. I mean, that's what you do, right? I mean, I guess she just wasn't. She wasn't used to handling a 3-year-old as mischievous as Rory. So it happened. It was an accident. It was very unfortunate for us, but no, definitely she is my best friend, and she would have done anything, to keep him safe. She just didn't know. Right. So, yeah.
Well, and the work that you're doing now, I mean, like I said, it's really, really fantastic. And, it's a tribute to him, I think.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, and one thing I've noticed with a lot of the parents, specifically through Families United and stuff, is that's really what we want to do. We want to keep our children's memory alive, and we want their death not to be in vain. We want to keep other parents from dealing with this crappy situation for the rest of their lives. And if it's preventable, we need to do that, right? So, and selfishly, it keeps his name being said, and I get to do things for him still, so that's on the selfish side of I'm still doing things for my child. So
nothing selfish about that, and it's working. So
right, I hope so. I hope so, and I'm really excited about the response I've gotten from the men and women, the first responders, about these. They're really excited about getting them. And that excites me, right? Because that's our biggest boundary is sharing our passion about water safety and about all these different things. And sometimes it feels like it falls on deaf ears. And so when people are really reacting to it, it's uplifting. You know, maybe this is the way we get it out there. Maybe this is the way we promote water safety and prevention. So, like, I hope they never have to use that oxygen tank. Like, right. I hope that it gets old and they have to get it replaced and, you know, things like that. I think that would be amazing. But if they need it, I want them to have it. You know, I want them to be able to do something. So, for sure.
So does Rory the Warrior have anything coming up that you want to tell people about?
Well, actually, we just had our big ride. So I'm kind of on a down slope right now, needing to recoup. But we are looking at different things. We don't have anything set. One way we are trying to fund a lot of these departments, because it's now branched out. We're in Brazoria County, which is southern Texas. And we want to go to Uvalde, where Rory had drowned, and get their departments funded and filled. And so what we're going to be doing is, if the departments want these bags for their guys or for their department, we'll go there and do events there to fund that department specifically. Right. You know, and that way it gets their community involved. It's not some, you know, mystical people who they don't know, right? You know, we're going to give money to this, but we don't know who it's going to. Right. So and that way, again, we get to promote prevention and water safety and why we're doing this, along with raising money and getting it into their hands. So
that's awesome.
You know, yeah. So yeah, right now, no, I don't have any events like right now, but we have a lot in the works. We in April, we're partnering up with Katie, and they're in Harris County, they're Houston area. Katie Safety Fest, and we're going to do Safety Fest Brazoria County down here. Wow. Yeah. And so we're just trying to spread that. I mean, again, it's safety for everything. I mean, it encompasses everything, but, you know, we get to throw in our water safety, which is the whole point for me doing it. So, yeah. But yeah, I appreciate you asking that, but no, I don't have anything.
Where, if somebody wants to support you or learn more about the bags or Rory the Warrior, how do they find you?
Well, we're on Facebook under Rory the Warrior. We also have a website. It's rorythewarrior.org. It's a lot of R's. It's a little bit of a tongue twister, but yeah, it's rorythewarrior.org. You can see the tanks. You can purchase the tanks. You can see, we have a page where we post a first responder's picture and a little bio, and people can donate directly to their bag. That has been wildly popular, to where they're like in competition now, right? So they're like, oh, I'm going to beat so-and-so. I'm going to get my bag first. And, you know, so we're really excited about it. I just made a big order for 50 bags, and it's looking like I'm going to be needing to make another order because, you know, yeah, we're wanting to present these to the guys, and we're just really excited about it. So
that's really cool. I'm going to order a couple for me for sure.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, I don't know why people aren't doing it. I've already said that, but you know,
I mean, it makes sense, you know,
right.
I have a pool and my brother across the street has a pool. So I'm getting us both one, you know?
Yeah. Well, good. Yeah, we have pool fences, right? And
Yeah.
I've already told several of the pool companies around here, I'm coming for you,
Yeah.
because why wouldn't you market this with your pool,
Sure.
And it's it's going to a better cause. It's going to first responders instead of
Right.
whatever. I mean, I don't know. We're new
It's
at
good.
this, so.
Well, you're doing a phenomenal job. You really, really are. It's impressive, and I think that you're going to do really good work. I'm excited for you.
Thank you. Yeah, I have high hopes, but we just wait for God to lead us and listen, and that's what we do. So I can't even take the credit for it. I'm just do what I'm told.
That works. So is there anything you want people to know before we wrap it up?
Oh gosh, that's a I don't know. Now you just stumped me. That's probably a good question, right? I want people to know that about water safety. Our biggest barrier is parents for the younger ones, right? They think that they know that what they're doing, and everything they do is out of not a lack of love. And so when we approach them, telling them things, what they do wrong, that it comes back on us. Just pay attention to water safety. Pay attention to the water around you. It's summertime, and what do? We go to pools, and we go to the beach, and we go to lakes, and we go to rivers, and every function is around water. I know you posted something about you can't leave the hospital without having a car seat, and they even check the car seat, and you can't do all these things. They worry about helmets, riding bicycles, and you can name it, plugs for your outlets when you have a baby, right? I mean, that's a huge thing. I can't remember the last time I've seen where a baby was electrocuted, but
right,
we have to have those plugs.
Of course.
And so why aren't we, when tragedy happens, with school shootings, which are horrible, everybody runs out, and we need to spend all this money, we need to do all this, and that's good, it's good, but we're still avoiding the big issue for our kids. At our event on the 15th, I did a I don't know what you call it, exhibition. I don't know what we put out bathing suits. We hung them up for every child that has drowned in Texas since 2016 when Roy drowned. And we had them in the right gender, and we had them in the right age. It was 240.
Wow.
And and for people to look at that, to see, because they were just blown away. They're like, what is this in the whole US? No, it's just Texas, and it's not even for the last 10 years. It's only like the last 2 years. So, and 56 already, 58 in Texas already. People need to be more aware of their surroundings and of the dangers of pools. We wouldn't want people don't want loaded guns around, but hey, we got a pool in our backyard, and that's our fun.
Right.
Which is fun. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love swimming as much as the next person, but I also see that now as something that has to be handled with care, like with guns or anything else, So that's really what people take.
Our original pool safety guide, which still exists, used to say that, you wouldn't leave a gun on your countertop, but, at least with a gun, if a child gets it and pulls the trigger and, the bullet shoots out of it, where the bullet goes isn't certain, but if a child falls in the pool, what happens after that is the same every time. Yeah.
Yeah. Seconds. They don't even have to be missing for a minute or not even. They take that one breath, and it's done, right? I don't know. I don't know. It's just sad. It's just sad.
And you're right about the media stuff. I got annoyed. It was a few years ago when there was that peanut butter salmonella thing where the kids were getting sick from the peanut butter, right?
Right. Right.
And it was everywhere. It was on Good Morning America and the Today Show and the national news. And,
Oh, yeah.
you know, it was plastered all over everything, right? And it was a thing, right? But I mean, you're talking literally about a handful of kids who got a tummy ache, right? I mean, that's the extent of it, right?
Right.
And it was everywhere. And every day they were talking about, you know, this peanut butter scare. Kids were dying in pools. You know, there was kids who were literally dying, who weren't getting mentioned, who there was no story about, you know, and this death toll was racking up while we're talking about, you know, upset tummies.
Right.
And
peanut butter.
You know, and peanut butter. Right. And it drove me nuts at the time. I remember thinking like, this is ridiculous.
Right. Well, and you know, I went to our local pool, just trying to figure out what their safety procedures were. And also knowing, you know, people were worried over the safety of oxygen tanks and whether people are going to use them properly or, you know, things like that. And I go to the pool, and around our pool is literally 7 fire extinguishers. 7.
Yeah.
I was unaware that fire was the main issue in the pool area, but okay, there's 7. We got it handled, right? And what I tell people when they talk about the, you know, well, if someone uses it wrong, well, they could get in trouble. Well, okay. If there's a fire and there's a fire extinguisher there, if I break that glass and I get it and I put out the fire, I'm okay, right? Like if I use it and it works or doesn't work, it's okay.
Right.
However, if I'm hanging out at the pool and I break the glass and get the fire extinguisher and start spraying everything, when there is no fire, obviously I'm going to be in trouble.
Right.
Same idea. I mean, it's the same idea. You use it when you need it, and if you don't use it when you're supposed to, well, then you're going to get in trouble for that.
Right.
So why don't we just train people when they're supposed to? You know, 100%. When someone's not breathing.
and the idea of having it, you know, on hand like a fire extinguisher is the perfect analogy.
Right.
You know, this is the fire extinguisher for your pool. You know?
Exactly. Well, yeah, and we have fire extinguishers in our house,
Sure.
And building codes make you have fire extinguishers. So why not? I'm not one for new laws. Don't get me wrong. I don't want new regulations and new laws, but don't get me wrong. If that's what we have to do, then I'm not against it. I just feel like people need self-regulation. I don't need the state of Texas to say, okay, well, if you have a pool, you have to have an oxygen tank.
Right.
I wouldn't hate it, but I don't need that. I need people to be aware of why they need an oxygen tank. I need them to be aware of the dangers of their pool and self-regulate. You know, if the government makes you do it, you're not going to really invest in it, right? You're going to be like, I have to do this.
Yeah.
So I have this oxygen tank that's in the closet. I'm not even sure where it is, you know, like that kind of thing.
It makes me so sad when people get a pool fence from us to meet code, right? Because they have to meet the building code. And I know because they tell me that as soon as they pass inspection, they're taking it down.
Wow.
And I'm like, can you just not? Maybe just leave it up? That'd be really cool, you know?
Right.
You know, I don't even want to make it for, you know, I feel, you know, we do this great job installing it. It looks gorgeous and it's perfect and safe. And I know that in a week it's going to be gone, you know, and it's, you know, just because the law requires it, you know? Right.
Well, and what kills me about that is a lot of times these people, well-meaning, you know, well, I don't have children, or children are grown, or I have a fenced-in yard, all this other stuff. Well, that's great, except if you have grandkids, neighbor kids, if you have friends that come over that have kids, do you want to be right or do you want to be safe? You know, yes, parents need to supervise their children. Absolutely. Yes, the children need swimming lessons. Great. But children don't always do what we tell them to do. I mean, they could avoid that pool 100 times and then get this wild hair, right? And I'd rather be safe and save a child that made a wrong choice at the age of 3, when I don't even think you can make real choices. I'd rather be safe than right, you know? oh, well, they should have kept their child away from my pool, or the child shouldn't have got in there. Great. You're right. Yay.
Yeah. Congratulations. Yeah.
Right. But a child's still gone or hurt or, you know, something like that. So why can't we just be safe? And who cares about being right?
Yeah. My dad used to say there's a lot of people who are dead right, you know, and
yeah,
very dead, very right. Yeah.
Exactly. You know, do you want the child to be alive to make better decisions, or, you know, be self-righteous and be like, well, I did what I'm supposed to do. They're not my child, or whatever. You know, I'm not saying all people do that. It's just, that's kind of their thinking. Well, you know, my family's fine. My children know how to swim. And they don't realize how many times it's neighbors' pools, grandkids, just the list of things, you know.
It was a neighbor's pool recently with Bodie Miller.
Yeah.
You know, so it happens.
Well, yeah, I personally know a couple that were in our grief counseling. That little guy got out twice and got into a neighbor's pool. You know, above ground pools, people seem to think they're not as dangerous. It's just a realm of things. Right. And a lot of times what I'm sure you get it is, oh, well, we can't, you know, bubble wrap everything. We can't, nothing's foolproof. Well, I get that. I get that. And if it was a random, rare occasion that a child drowned, I probably wouldn't be on this mission for everybody to know it. But it's not. You know, so all of, you know, people that think that they always watch their children, people that think that they've done everything right, they're losing out. You know? And it's their children. So.
And people are probably sick of hearing me say it, but the parents who say they always watch their kids are the ones that scare the crap out of me. You know, not the mom who's like, yeah, I can't keep up with them. I need every pool fence alarm device I can get. You know, those are real moms. The ones that are like, no, I watch my kid 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I don't sleep. I don't use the bathroom. I don't shower. The baby comes with me everywhere I go. Those moms terrify me because that's not real. There's no parent who watches a kid, you know.
Well,
like that. 24 hours a day.
Right. As they post about the child getting into, Rory got Sharpies, or into the pantry, or into the peanut butter, or, you know, illicit things. And they're like, oh, look, how funny this is. Well, yeah, it is funny. Mm-hmm. But that pantry or that peanut butter or that Sharpie marker that you weren't watching them for those 2 minutes could have been a pool.
Yep.
You know, you're lucky.
Yeah, you must have heard me do that rant because I've done it a dozen times.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you don't watch your kids all the time. You don't. No. You know, so many times people, like, there's been a few children that sneak out the windows when everybody's sleeping, or they're supposed to be taking a nap and mom's in the kitchen making lunch. Like, there's no fault in that. No. You don't know what you don't know. And that's why, you know, when I tell people about window alarms, they kind of roll their eyes. They're like, oh, yeah, whatever. Well, okay, I can show you pictures of children who climbed out windows because the doors were locked. Yep. So, no, we don't watch our kids all the time. And yeah, I've seen those comments. I try to avoid comments on certain posts because...
Me too, yeah.
Oh, I'm just like, wow, perfect parents. I'm not one, you know.
Yeah, they're not perfectly just lucky, you know. That's
right. Yeah, and I hope they stay lucky. That would be awesome. I would love to live in that world, you know, where bad things don't happen. When we went to that house, the rental house, and I saw that pool when we first arrived, I actually looked at that pool and I said, that pool is going to be a nightmare. Because Rory was mischievous. He was always on the go. So I knew that was going to be something that I was going to have an issue keeping him away from. I went so far as to every night, like, I'm locking all the doors, and I tell the children and I tell the parents, like, if you get up and you want to go outside, like, just make sure Rory's in the bed, lock the door after you. I was just so fearful that he would get up before me and sneak out to the pool. Hindsight, right? Like, I was worried about it, but I didn't actually think it was going to happen. And
sure.
It did. And I felt like I was like the somewhat overprotective kind of. I've been accused of that before, and that's why I think that, sorry.
That's great. I love it.
That's why I can tell people I was that parent. I don't think I was so like, oh, I will always watch my child. No, Rory was number 4 of our children, and he was the wildest one. I can tell you, I did not have a handle on that child 100% of the time. We have pictures of our own where he got into a Sharpie. While we're all at the table, he happened to get up, and within 5 minutes, my other children are like, we don't even know where he got the Sharpie from, because I had literally banned Sharpies from my house, right? And he had gotten himself the dresser I just redone for him, his bed, the wall, the hall wall, my dresser, Dad's dresser. Like, I mean,
the cat, the dog,
right? Like, he got it. So yeah, I mean, I knew I wasn't. He was just a go kind of kid, and I just don't want other parents to deal with this, right? Like, and I try to tell people, I'm not judging you. I'm not like, you're a bad parent. You need to do this, this, and this. I'm telling you because I made these mistakes. Right. I'm telling you because I've seen these mistakes made, even if I didn't make them myself. And it's not worth it. It's not worth it.
Absolutely. So. All right. Well, thank you very much for doing this.
Eric. I hope I did okay. I'm not much of a webcam person, so I'm probably looking all everywhere except for I'm supposed to be.
You're doing a great job, and you really, really did, and I really appreciate it. And I think that the oxygen and the hero bag is an amazing idea. I can't believe no one has done it before you. Me too. But I hope that gets rectified very, very soon. So,
right.
I'm going to do what I can to make sure people know. So,
I
appreciate it.
And thank you for what you do.
Oh, thank you.
That's awesome.
Yes. All right. Well, you guys have a good day, and I will see you soon.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right.